Hello, DC Comics. We need to talk about some things we've been hearing coming down the pipe and your continued relations with Wednesday's serials. So we're just going to have a moment and talk. So please, sit down. This is going to be a minute. So first off, recently things have been pretty good. Here at Wednesday's Serial, we've been more sold on your main line of Batman, finding the quality in it despite its seeming presence to keep your creative interest from going outside of that line. We're trying to find the strength in it, and there's definitely some good quality stuff there, but what we've been worried about here is starting to really come to fruition. So this week, Grayson came out, and we don't want to speak too strongly on it here at Wednesday Serial because we didn't read it, but we saw the cover, we saw what you're trying to sell people on. This idea that Nightwing is now a spy, but really, by the cover, it's just a white guy with a gun. And we understand he didn't necessarily use the gun in the comic. He sells the acrobats. He didn't change his hair, even though, alright. But it lacks a certain level of creativity. We understand. You've been hearing from us and others like us, much like Wednesday's Serial, all over the place, that we want more diversity. We want some different stuff in our comics, and not always just superheroes. And I could see trying to make a spy, but this doesn't cut it. This isn't creative. This is just taking away from a character whose roots are in the idea that he doesn't use a gun because he needs to be better than that. And that goes all the way back to the origins of Batman and Bill Finger and where Robin came from. We know things have changed and there's character moments and things with the times and drastic changes, but there's some things that just... you might as well invent a new character or use a better character that's already existing. Instead of a Grayson comic, why not a Steve Trevor comic? Suddenly you have a white guy with a gun, yeah, whatever, but his connections within the DC universe automatically make it a more interesting comic. Or hey, what about, what was his name? Harold, who used to work in the Batcave, working on the cars and stuff and whatnot. Oh, what if you put him in, what was it, Spectre or whatever? Spiral, oh, right, your rip-off thing there, right, it's so original. Why don't you put him there, and then he reports back to Batman as the mole. That way you get a crazy device as far as him being a mole, and him able to interpret and get different pieces of information. Then you can leave certain blocks out to reveal later, or to just kind of skip over, because you guys hire Tim Seeley, who's the best writer. So it gives kind of a device to kind of smooth over some of that. Just something. We're just spitballing here, but it just seems like there's so many ways you could have gone when you could have done anything and not connected to the Bat Universe, and here we are. Also, we heard about the changes coming forth with Batgirl, and we're really sorry to hear about the current creative team going. We know it's been a while. We'd like to see the Gail Simone run go a bit longer, as it's one of our favorite products from DC. But we understand things change, and that something has to go forward. And congratulate you on making a bold move. It's interesting to say you're going to try to pull this off, because it seems that the audience for this upcoming book is drastically different from the one currently reading the book, as this is more of a teen boppy. It sounds like more episodic, so probably more teenage drama is the vibe I'm getting from like the selfie and the much younger look, and that's cool. Wish you the best of luck with that one. That's more of what we'd like to see, but we're actually not going to read it because that's not... No, not interesting to me as much. It happens, but that's the point of diversity. And again, it's still tied to the Bat Universe, so... Then there's Wonder Woman, which we'll be wrapping up, and again, we'll be sorry to see that go, but we understand, yada yada. From what we understand about who you're bringing in, David Finch, who, all right, on our, not super excited, but I could deal if the writing talent was there, and I don't even mind the idea of a new talent. The fact that you're bringing on a female writer is great for that. But it is Finch's wife, so okay, that can be interesting. There's lots of great married couples who work throughout the industry, and they put out great work because they work well in tandem. That's cool. But her work up to this far professionally has really been at Xenoscope, and the way that they treat their woman, what you want to do with Wonder Woman, seems to be at odds. I'm not saying we won't necessarily be reading this, but very, very cautious about that. It's really going to be one issue to win me over. Otherwise, out the door, because I'm not in the market for mediocre or bad comics anymore. And then there's Green Arrow, which it sounds like you're taking the current creative team, which has been amazing, and riding the line of what you seem to be wanting to do editorially and still making something really strong out of it, and taking on 2 writers from the show to write the comic, which inevitably means it's going to be more like the show, which isn't so much what I find appealing about Green Arrow. It's not this dynasty drama. It's the idea of a hyper liberal going out and doing something right, kind of being the Robin Hood in this superhero universe. And I'm afraid I'm gonna have to walk away there as well. What kills me about all this is there's a through line to everything here. When Marvel was bought by Disney, DC, in turn, already owned by Warner Brothers, became more corporate as a response. And we're really starting to see that shine through. Now, there was a big thing with the New 52 and driving up sales, but that was something to try to generate something new. And it failed in a lot of aspects. It might have won out in some, and it definitely went out in drumming up interest, which is great, but that's since fallen off because that's really only ever going to be a cheap stunt to try to drive some interest. And we're past it. And now we're kind of at a point where you guys need a new wave. And what we're seeing is that instead of doing something bold and new, you're not. You're taking rote, trite concepts that have already been done a million times and just kind of slapping them into the books. You're taking Green Arrow from the character that he was and everything came from in so many ways. And yes, the Grell versus when Kevin Smith wrote it was very different, but there was something to the character that stayed true. Now we're getting a whole new Green Arrow that's more based on family drama and is basically another CW show. And now that's becoming all Green Arrow is. It's something that works in mass media. Now it's taking away what once was. With Batgirl, we're seeing, admittedly, this one's the most positive of them. We're seeing this kind of more cutesy girl, kind of in the line of, with the more female-centric cartoons coming up. And already with Teen Titans Go, you've been doing it, and trying to bring that look and feel more to Batgirl, and so that's coming down. And then with Grayson, we're getting the whole spy idea, and it's another white guy with a gun, another good-looking white guy with a gun, so it's nothing original there. It's just tied in with whatever else to justify it as a Batman-related comic. And it goes against everything that made DC successful in the first place. I'm not saying you can always pull the same trick, but here you are just trying to pull the same thing over and over again. But when you look at the only thing you guys seem to be able to really sell, and that's Batman, sometimes Superman, but really Batman. Look at where Batman started. When Batman started, he was a Spider ripoff. He was a ripoff of the pulp characters, just a guy with an animal motif toting around 2 guns shooting criminals. It didn't make a whole lot. It didn't really grab a lot of people's attention. It sold, it did alright, you guys drummed up some interest, but what captivated people was when Batman was reworked. And suddenly this guy whose life was destroyed by guns and was devoting his life to try to stop it wouldn't use a gun because he had to be better. There's something there. There's a through line, a thought, some originality, some idea behind it that actually means something in a larger point, and is something that has captivated people for 75 years. And when you think about every major incarnation of Batman in any movie, in almost any comic, any TV show, any cartoon, the radio serials, this idea of him not killing and not using a gun, whether it's more on a goofy end like Adam West, or more like the Nolan movies that a lot of people love, or just general standard Batman comic, that's at the core of what he is. No matter what else changes, there's something to that, and that thrown down to his pupils and whatnot is what makes that brand, that core, interesting. And when you start rejecting that and playing with it in loose ways, it feels cheap. And what really kills me is you've already done this. You already have the Red Hood. You already have a rejected post-killed Robin come back and be more gritty and use guns. But there, he was rejecting that notion. And so by him using guns, it creates a divide. It shows something about the character, the fact that he's willing to brazenly use guns. Here, it's just thrown in. There's no reason for it, and he's not even really using the gun in the comic, sure, but that's how you're selling it. And that says so much about what's going on. And if you guys aren't going to put thought or creativity or anything worthwhile into these comics, why should anyone bother picking them up? So, we here at Wednesday's Serial aren't dropping every DC comic, but it looks like we'll be dropping a lot, which is going to make room for the next great idea that's probably going to come from anywhere else.